I think we all know here, but just in case, we have 3 branches of government in Hawaii, and we will focus on the legislature, where laws are made. I like to think that the executive is where laws are implemented, but in the judiciary is where the sometimes brawls between the other two are decided. You can remember Super Ferry, for instance, and that wound up in the courts. And so the 3 branches of government working together are crucial to the ongoing governance of a democracy. We focus exclusively on state legislation rather than national or county, but people call us a lot of times for questions about the Akaka bill or rail on Oahu. And so we always try to be, if we can't be the last phone call people make, we hope to be the next to the last phone call, because we've all been run around, and we don't like to run people around. And so this is where we are. We have 76 legislators, 25 members of the Senate, and 51 members of the House. Some of us were talking a little earlier about the balance between the 2 parties in the state. We have, I believe, 6 Republicans in the state House and 1 Republican in the Senate. And so poor Sam Sloan, his saving grace is that he has an outrageous sense of humor. And since he has to sit on all Senate committees, he often runs into himself running up and down the hallways. And so, yeah, democracy isn't always easy, but it can be fun. Lawmakers have one job to do, and that is to serve their constituents. And they do this in a number of ways. One is that they serve regionally. Each of us in the state has a representative and a senator whose kuleana is the area in which they live. So that if you have a situation in your community that you think that the legislature needs to know about, you would logically call your own representative or senator to talk over that matter. They also serve topically, and they focus on particular areas through the committees process. There are transportation committees and human services committees and public safety committees. And so the ideal, if you have something going on in your community that deals with that topic, then you would check to see who sits on the committees that matter would be about. And if your own legislator is sitting on that committee, then you have 2 different ways that that person would want to pay particular attention to what it is that you have to say. And then some serve in leadership roles as well. These are the 4 things that legislators do in performing their services for the state of Hawaii citizens. And they enact laws and pass resolutions which do not have the force and effect of law, but can be very effective vehicles in moving particular matters forward. They can propose amendments to the Constitution, but we would never entrust mere legislators with changing our Constitution. That's our job. And so they can propose them, and many bills are introduced every year that make suggestions as to ways that our Constitution could be amended. But very few of those, no matter who is proposing them, very few would ever be passed, because you don't want to be tinkering with your foundation document any more than you would want to tinker a lot with the foundation of your own house. And they also approved the state budget. A couple of years ago, I was making this presentation in Representative Nakashima's district, and he was in the audience, and I made some kind of a wisecrack about, well, this year the state budget's going to be about $17, and he stuck his hand up in the back of the room and he said, we don't have that much money. And so it's not as bad as it was a couple of years ago, but we're still in really tight straits. And our Constitution requires that we have a balanced budget. So it's been a real dance trying to get through our hard times. But we're on the road. So we're going to be looking at the legislature's newly designed website. It's a tremendous innovation, and it's going to be really easy for people who are new to looking at the website. But for those of us who've spent 11 years looking at the old one, some of it is a bit mind-bending, but you'll find that it is a tremendously improved site. They hired somebody in our Senate Data Systems office who appears to be about 9 years old. And he's the one that completely redesigned the site, and it's just really good. If you don't know who your legislators are, you can go up into the corner there where it says Find Your Legislator. Simply put in a street name. You can add an optional zip code if you wish. We used Anui Nui because it's a pretty word. And there you find that if you were living on Anui Nui Street in 96720 zip code, then representative would be Mark Nakashima and your senator would be Malama Solomon. Each of these names is hyperlinked to those individuals' own pages. And so you just click on those, and then you can find all the contact information you need for those particular legislators. And as the session begins and progresses, you will also find on their individual pages information about bills and resolutions that they will have sponsored or co-sponsored as well. To find out who sits on particular committees, then you would go into the legislature's website, and also to find a list of all of the legislators. Simply click on the legislators button there in the middle, and you'll find a list of all of the people who represent the citizens of the state. If you come in here, you'll see that you can also sort by either Senate or House if you choose, and you can sort by district. You know, sometimes people will go, whoa, you'll see a newspaper article, the senator from District 17 is like, I don't know who District 17 is. I mean, I don't have this information in my head. And so this is going to be a really helpful resource for people there, too. And this is Senator Solomon's page, too. If you were to click on committees, again, these are going to all be hyperlinked. All of them will be listed. And again, you can sort by Senate or by House. The chairs and the vice chairs of the committees will be pictured, and then the individual members of the committee will also be listed. So you will see down here that Senate Environment Committee is chaired by Mike Gabbard, Vice Chair is Kalani English, and then Josh Green of your own island, Leslie Hara, and Sam Sloan, who sits on all Senate committees, is also on that committee. Never, ever forget that the most important participants in our government system, that's me and you. And you'll see there's a photo down there at the bottom at the Capitol around the beautiful mosaic that's called Aquarius. And we put that in there to remind people to be part of a big crowd if you can. You know, the more people that are involved in supporting or opposing a piece of legislation, the more they can have effect. But I love this picture, the lady in her little fantail, whatever it is. I stick that in there to remind you, too. Sometimes you may be the only person that really cares a lot about a particular piece of legislation. That doesn't mean you can't have an effect. Find a way to get them to really see what you have to say or really hear what you have to say. And if you can get into a hearing room wearing something like that, then good for you. You could definitely get their attention by doing so, but I don't think you're going to fit through the door. These are our jobs as citizens. We elect our legislators, vote on those constitutional amendments, brave people among us run for office, or stuff envelopes for somebody who does. And I will say that as a member of a nonpartisan office, one of the greatest advantages I have is that we all have somebody who's going to run for office that's a friend or a family member, and they always want you to hold signs for them. And I have to say, sorry, I can't do that. It's great.